Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by this guy named Joseph from Wales. Listens to the 1090 podcast, and he sent me like this. I sent him a 1090 shirt, and in return, he sent me like this sweet gift package. And then he had this letter in there, and it's Joseph with two F's at the end, which is cool. Like PH, get out of here. Okay, to Mason and Blue. First of all, I just want to say what you are doing is just purely amazing. And I would like to thank you for creating the 1090 podcast. It has helped me tremendously. You guys are always on my mind, and I listen to you guys talk almost every day. Big thanks. Big thank you also for the t-shirt. I know it has been 2 years for you now, and life will always keep throwing curveballs at you, but keep on going. Be that buffalo. Just sending this as a gift of appreciation from Wales, UK. Thank you so much. Big love. And then he said, like a little note on the side, he said, I am also that dog tied to the moving wagon. Because we did that episode where we talked about Seneca using that dog tied to a moving wagon. So he said, I'm also that dog tied to the moving wagon. At times it drags me, but at times I can run with it. I will eventually be able to alter its path, but it will forever be moving. Thank you, Joseph.
Life 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it.
Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it. Sam Josie's nowhere to be found, but I found Jimmy Rex off the street. He was at, what's this chicken place right here, Ryan? He's at Raising Cane's. Like, Jimmy, JR, Jimbo. What's your nickname? What nickname you go by?
Dude, when I was little, they called me Holmes, and nobody ever knew why. Right. My brother kind of came up with it, and finally he's like, where the hell did that come from? And I guess on the movie Vacation, you know, the Chevy Chase
Classic,
movie.
yeah.
He's getting out of his car, like in the hood in St. Louis, and he goes, excuse me, Holmes? And my brother just thought it was the funniest thing ever. And so that's where it came from. So, but that's since died off. I don't really have like a solid nickname, just Jimmy, you know?
I like to call you JR.
Yeah, that works. I would turn if somebody said that. I'd know they were talking to me.
You a WWF kid growing up?
Of course, dude. Ultimate
JR,
Warrior.
the announcer? Good God, JR, he broke him in half. Like, you don't remember those guys?
I do, but I was more focused on I was more looking to the wrestlers, you know.
Who was your favorite wrestler?
Had to be the Ultimate Warrior and the Legion of Doom. And the Legion of Doom, dude.
Ultimate
I liked
Warrior.
That
So
guy.
good.
Dude, have you ever seen the documentaries about him? He's a mess in real life.
I think a lot of those guys
Oh
kind of
yeah, no, that's not a good.
Yeah.
It's not a good recipe. I mean, they're all, you know, totally hyped up on steroids, and they got late nights, injuries, so a lot of pain pills,
And
then a lot of bars with, you know, whatever you can find. And you're in Detroit, you're in St. Louis, you're in Philly.
Yeah, you're on the road every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus, like, I experienced this a little bit when I got done playing college basketball, but I'm sure they get done with it, and they're like,
What's my identity?
who am I now?
Mm-hmm.
You a big Seinfeld guy?
I wouldn't. It's two parts. A, love Seinfeld. B, I didn't like it as a kid, so I haven't seen most of the episodes. Although I know which one you're referring to, and I have obviously
Jimmy.
seen that one where the guy keeps talking in third person.
Jimmy doesn't like misunderstandings.
You know what's great about Seinfeld is I say this about friendship. Most people only call their friends when if it's an important thing or if they need something. That's pretty much when people call people. You know you have true friends when you're calling each other. I call it the Seinfeld call. You don't have anything to say. There's nothing important. You're just jamming. You just want to talk to that person. And I always tell people, if you want to have more friends, 10 times a day, just pick up your phone when you're driving, when you're waiting, when you're in the bathroom. Call one of your buddies and just jam. Don't offer anything. Don't ask for anything.
Yeah.
That's Seinfeld.
Just wanted to talk.
Just
popping in. The old pop in.
Dude, just what the hell's going on? I had a funny thing happen the other day. Here's what it was, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to ask you, well, before we dive into anything further, I owe you a huge thank you. Like, you took the 1090 thing. Honestly, I don't even know where it happened so early. I don't even know where he'd be, but not here. So me coming on your podcast and the videos you made, we started picking up speaking gigs to like JR. We're talking okay, I thought when I started talking, people who lost loved ones would connect and reach out, but it's been everyone, dude. Construction companies, law firms have reached out. I mean, the schools and that stuff's normal though, but things you wouldn't even juvenile detention centers in Virginia. What are we doing here? But it was cool. And I think I show you a huge thank you. And we had our anniversary episode, and we're just kind of recapping our first season, and you kind of came up, and I'm like, you know what? We got to have Jimmy on because he's the assist man for 1090. So, and it's not just me. What you've done for 1090, you've done for so many people. So I'm just trying to give back and tell you thank you, man, and thanks for coming.
Dude, well, I appreciate it, man. It's, people don't know how much. I'm about 480 episodes into my podcast now, so, it's a lot of work. And when you're building it, I always, from day one, I said, I just want to build a platform big enough to make a difference. I was never about the money. It was never about the fame or the likes, because if you do it for that, you're going to get exhausted, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to quit, because you don't get any of that for a really long time.
Yeah, I can imagine that being.
And what I love about your story, bros, my whole coaching program is about being vulnerable and how that is a superpower. And when you came on my podcast and then you came up and spoke to us, we chopped up those videos. I think your videos, the 3 videos, between the 3 of them, 4 of them that we did, it's over 50 million views on TikTok and probably equally on Instagram. And you start thinking about how many lives that touched. I had people reach out to me. I had a dude that lost his dad in 9/11 reached out to me. And then I went and did a podcast with him.
Is that Dave Dead Talks?
Uh-huh.
Dude, I love that guy.
What a cool dude, huh?
That guy he's a genuine guy.
For sure. And then I asked him, I said, hey, what's a story I need to tell to my audience that I need to get out there? And he said, there's this guy, James Alvarez. So then I had him on the podcast. He was walking with his wife. She was 9 months pregnant, got hit by a drunk driver, killed, and they were able to rescue the baby. So now he and the baby, kind of like you and Blue, that's his life. And you start telling a few of these stories, and I can't tell you the number of people that reached out to me that it touched them. But the cool part is how we got, and this is one of my favorite things I tell people. If you feel like you don't know where to find good people, people are always like, I don't know where to find good friends. I don't know where to find good people to date. Well, here's a super trick that I learned networking wise is do things for charity, do things for people that need it, and you will just find the other people that come from that heart space. So the way we connected is we do these adventure trips every year. Twice a year. We just got back from Spain. I took 70 guys to run with the bulls. Well, the trip before that was Iceland. And I don't even know if you know this. That's how we met those. I put a thing on my Instagram. I said, who is somebody that is deserving of this trip? We want to pay for it, sponsor everything, the flight, the trip, the whole thing. It's $10,000 trip. And just somebody that could use 40 close friends, so 40 dudes to lean on. And I got hundreds of people that applied to be part of that. And yours, I was just like, oh my gosh, this poor guy I can't imagine the loss that he's been going through.
Who submitted mine?
Multiple people.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 4 or 5 people.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And I hit you up, and you're like, "Hey, I've got my little boy. I can't leave him for a week." And so you weren't able to come, but that's how we connected. And we ended up taking a kid, which is cool that you couldn't go. We took this kid that has stage 4 cancer and had this giant. His whole body is a giant scar at this point.
Man.
And just had the time of his life, had the week of his
awesome.
life. Yeah, And so it's pretty cool. But because we were just trying to do some good, just trying to reach out and find people that were deserving of some love, that's how we first connected. And now, dude, literally millions of people and really touched hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Yeah, it's helped us get a platform pretty quick. And it was, I don't know if you remember this, because when you asked me to be on your podcast, I was in, and I still am, in the thick of grief, but I was really buried in it. So I don't even know who you were. Do you remember me? I'm in your podcast. I'm like, who are you? And you're like, I'm fucking Jimmy Rex here.
I did not say that. Well, one of the hard parts about doing a podcast is I want to get the story. I want to get it while it's relevant, right? I just got a guy that he'd gone down to the Titanic in a submersible. That's a pretty relevant to the timing of the story.
Wait. Say that again?
I had a guy the week the submersible exploded or didn't, and they did that as a fraud or whatever, I mean, I had a guy that had been to the Titanic on a submersible.
No way.
He's from Utah, and he's a news director in Houston. And he did this little interview, and my buddy sent it to me. He's like, bro, you got to get this guy on your podcast. And here's what's cool. Now that I have the platform I do, I hit him up, and the next day we're on a podcast, right? But so I'm trying to get stories as they're relevant, and I can do a pretty good job of that. I can usually get somebody in the middle of a national story now just because of the platform I've built. But sometimes it's like, is it too early? Like, I'll give you an example. There's a really good friend of mine is Taylor Paul. She's a big TikToker here in Utah, has over 100 million people on her TikTok. And I had her on my podcast last March, and a month later, she came out as a swinger. It was in the story, the Mormon swinger. It was a huge story. It was a national story. Everybody was trying to get relevancy from her story. Well, she is going through it, and we had become good friends. And so I was trying to help her a little bit. Anyway, long story short, a year goes by. She's got a new boyfriend. She divorced. She's really been going through it. She seemed like she was in a pretty good place. So I'm like, hey, a lot of people, I was like my number one most requested guest to have back on. So I was like, hey, why don't you come back on if you want to? She goes, I'd love to. Let's get caught up on the story. So we do another story, another podcast, and dude, like a week later, she gets arrested for just like some things happened, and she was not in a place yet to probably do another podcast, and I didn't realize that until after she got arrested, because the podcast was still good, but I was like, damn, it just kind of hit me. Like, I need to make sure these people are in the place where they want to tell the story. So like, I just had Manti Te'o on my podcast. His documentary came out a year ago. And
the Catfish.
Yeah, I mean, he was literally on top of the world. He was the number one athlete in America in 2012. Probably for 6 months.
Yeah,
he was on ESPN every day.
Candidate.
He won every defensive award. His team was 12-0, played for the national championship. He was the star of the team. He was in the news because his grandma died. His girlfriend, we all thought, died. And he was on top of the world, and then he got crushed. I mean, and I actually got catfished before he did, so I knew what happened immediately when it happened. And
those
so
catfishers, man.
well, back then you didn't know what it was.
Right.
I just thought she was probably fatter in real life than she was in her photos. I'm just being honest. Like, well, I didn't know that it could be like a fake whole person. No one had ever heard of that. I just thought she didn't look like her photos. That's why I was like, she didn't want to meet up. But for him to go from top of the world to the crushed, and my point of that is he waited 10 years to tell the story till he was ready. Now he's now in a place where his story has so much power and so much influence because people can, now everybody goes, oh, we know exactly what happened. And he has so much emotion that he had to deal with and power that he can now tell that story with. My point is that's one of the tricky parts of a podcast. Like, I believe we timed yours perfectly because we caught the raw emotion. But if we'd missed that by a couple weeks, maybe the other way, it might have been a disaster kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely some truth to that. Jimmy, I don't even know you that well. I only know you what you show me on the internet, and then that one pot. Well, we hung out at the Bear Lake thing a little bit. I got some questions for you though. You ready?
Let's roll, bud. Let's get to know each other.
You're playing blackjack. Dealer has a 10 showing. You get a 16. Do you hit or stay?
It's 50-50. I play the odds. I actually know the odds on every hit. I'd probably, depends on what the deck was doing. If a lot of low cards had just been coming out, I'm staying. If a lot of high cards have just been coming out, I'm probably hitting.
Yeah, I'd hit every time.
I'm trying to put as much science into that as I can.
I hit on a 20 once.
Nice.
I said, and the dealer's
9
like,
and an ace?
The dealer's like, sir, you have a 20. I said, give me the ace. And then I got a 30.
Yes, nice. Have you ever seen Austin Powers?
I love
so he
Austin
can see
Powers.
the cards. He's got. I think he has a 19, and he can see that there's gonna be a 2, and he hits it, and he goes, "I too like to live dangerously," but he busts because the dude that can see the cards gets the 2, but then
I love Austin
he hits it and busts.
Fasha. Okay. Biggie Smalls once said, "Mo money, mo problems." You agree with that?
Money is a magnifier. So if you already have a lot of problems, they are going to magnify. But if you have taken care of your shit and got your house in order, absolutely not. And I would say up to $500,000 a year, that's the new number they say. They used to say that up to $70,000 a year, your happiness didn't change.
Yeah, I read that Malcolm Gladwell book, and it made me feel better about my life.
The new number is about $500,000 figured out, which makes more sense. Like, 70,000. There's still some things.
500,000.
Well, by the way, let me tell you an example of why money matters. Like,
hold on. Let me ask you these 2 more. Because if I don't ask you now, we're never going to get back to it, and then we'll get back to the money thing.
That's fine.
Would you rather fight 50 grizzly bears
Well, you're dying, so okay.
the size of a duck, or fight one duck the size of a grizzly bear?
Oof, this is harder than people think it is, because if you've ever been attacked by a turkey or a goose,
I have not. No.
or heaven forbid an ostrich, dude. I've been to
Ostriches
Africa.
are terrifying.
Oh, it's a dinosaur.
They are
Yeah, it's a
terrifying.
dinosaur. Yeah, I saw what, dude. I was in.
You know what
Africa.
makes them terrifying?
Yeah, they're ginormous.
Yeah, and they want all the smoke. They'll get
yeah,
up in your
yeah.
grill like, "What do you need?
Bro,
what are you doing here? Bring it on."
It's a 12-foot miniature dinosaur.
Yeah.
I was in Africa and we were doing a safari, and I remember, I'll never forget it. This ostrich is in the road in front of us, and it was the first time I ever seen one. I didn't know how big they were. This thing is, dude, it wouldn't fit in this room. Like, it's ginormous.
Yeah, I just saw
and
some
it's
a couple
running
weeks
at us full speed. I'm like, what the hell? There is a velociraptor in the road. Like, what are we doing?
It really
here?
is. You ever
Yeah.
had an ostrich burger? I'm just joking.
So I gotta
That's
be
a
real.
sign.
I think I'll take the 50 bears the size of a duck, because I think you could get away from them. I think you could kick them. Like, dude, there's some pretty funny TikToks of people getting attacked by geese and stuff. And
Dude, plus, like, they can fly a little bit.
oh yeah,
Like,
no, you
I
don't want to
think
mess
I'm
with a
you.
duck that's the size of a bear.
I think I'm with you. All right, one more, and then this will kind of tie back into the money thing, and you can teach us about the money.
Yeah,
You ready?
Yeah.
Another would you rather. I'm a big would you rather guy.
It's perfect. I hope I'm answering
I
entertaining
guarantee
for your audience.
I bet you $1 million no one's asked you this would you rather before. I don't have $1 million. So, okay, here we go. Every time you walk through a doorway, every time, Jimmy,
It's a lot of doors.
church, funeral, friend's house, business trip, your car even, any door, you have to scream, "Sexy Rexy plays for keeps." Or you lose $20 million.
Okay. I mean, it's going to put you at a real disadvantage in every social setting of your entire
Can you
life.
imagine that?
Yeah.
Like loud, like
You know
top
what?
of your
I
lungs.
think I could be. I am naive enough to believe that I could live without money. I'm pretty good thriving in chaos, and so if I lost the 20 million, I guess I'd have to be able to figure that out. I'd still have the capacity to earn money. I just have this giant debt hanging over me.
See, that's how I see money.
Yeah,
Like money, I can get money
so
whenever.
it's like I can make money, and
Right.
even if I owe a bunch, eventually get it paid off. So I think I'll take the 20 million loss. I just don't want to be yelling every time I walk.
You
into
have
a
to.
room.
I feel like you'd
nobody
have
would
to.
ever want you around.
No, I feel like you'd almost end up losing your money anyway. If
You
did
would.
that.
You'd be broke. Yeah.
Yeah, you did that one right.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that one's easier than people think. That being said, going back to the whole thing with money.
Well, I was asking you. Well, sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I was asking because the
good.
1090 thing is life's 10% what happens to you, and so I'm like, Jimmy, like, what are some really tough things you've gone through? And you mentioned one of them was like it did not start out well for you financially. Like you were $130,000 in debt.
Yeah, I mean, I very quickly started making a lot of money. I got home from my mission. I just wanted to be a waiter, but nobody would hire me because I wouldn't work Sundays. Kind of funny, right? And so I took a sales job, and I was making. My first day on the doors, I made $300, selling meat door to door. In my first month, I made like 10 grand, 15 grand. And so, my worst case scenario was going to be making multiple six figures selling meat door to door. And when I realized that, because when you're a kid, you want to have money, you want to be rich, but you don't know if it's going to happen. You don't know how.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I said, oh, I've got a skill that I'm going to have some money. And it just blew the doors off my imagination. I got to kind of start dreaming about what I wanted my life to look like. And so that was a huge day, but yeah, I built that up, and I decided to franchise it and go big. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Dude, I didn't even collect sales tax for a couple of years. I had to pay all that back.
So how old were you when you made
I
all?
was 21 when I started that.
Oh man, so
Yeah. I mean, I was right off my mission. I got home from my mission. Within 2 weeks, I set up a business doing people's Christmas lights. And then by 2 months after I got home, I was doing the meat thing. And I worked for another company for about 3 months and realized I was the only one working hard, but like everyone else seemed to be making plenty of money. So I figured out how it all worked, realized how much money I was making the bosses, and I just went on my own and did it on my own. And so for the next 2 years, that's what I did is I sold steak and chicken door to door, and built it up pretty nice. We were making some good money. I had like 12, 15 guys working for me. I would throw these steak parties. Well, it's interesting. It played twofold because I had this theory. One of my friends taught me. He said, dude, if you just ask a girl out cold, like you kind of come from a disadvantage. She knows you like her. But if you can kind of decoy it, then she'll kind of start to fall for you, create value. I said, well, give me an example. He said, well, instead of asking her out, throw a barbecue once a week. You already have a meat company. And then invite all your friends that are already good-looking people. It creates a bunch of social value, right? And one of the attraction triggers for a woman is she wants to know you're pre-selected by their high-value people because she doesn't have the time to make sure that you have healthy emotions and all the other things. So they'll just take another high-value woman's word for it. And so he said, you throw a barbecue, invite all your friends, and then go up to, when you see cute girls at school, say, hey, we're throwing a barbecue Tuesday night. You guys should come. You and your girlfriends come over. And so that's what I did every week. And so I'd get all my sales guys. They'd be like, who the hell's serving 50 steaks? That's how I'd get all my sales guys. That's how I'd get all my dates. And so for college, for like 2 years, I was running this meat company, making a couple $100,000 a year while in college, working 4 hours a day. I thought I had the world's greatest gig. I mean, it probably was. It was pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
And then my old meat partner came on. He wanted to partner with me, the guy that originally taught me. He was from the Netherlands. And without going into the whole story, I was pretty naive. I was a Mormon kid, fresh off my mission. I'd never seen a drug. This dude was on drugs. We ended up franchising our company to this guy in St. George. We were going big, dude. I got the same lawyer was doing our paperwork as he was doing Zupa's franchise paperwork. And we were looking pretty good. And then, dude, we got $35,000 put into our bank account from this guy, like a down payment on the franchise. And my partner took it all out and disappeared and didn't see him for 2 weeks. And when he showed back up, he was wearing the same clothes. He went on a drug binge, wasted all of our money. His family was calling me the whole time he was gone, yelling at me, trying to figure out where this guy was. I was like, I don't need this shit, you know? And so with tears running down both of our faces, I said, I'll clean up the pieces. I'll take care of it. You need to go. And I had all our bank debts. We'd taken all those loans to do the warehouse, to do our trucks, to do inventory. We had the big walk-in freezer and a lot of marketing stuff. And so I got stuck with about $130,000 debt. And by that point, I'd started real estate. And I didn't like the meat business because, number one, I was just burnt. You know, I felt like I'd been kind of burnt. And
well, real quick, you brought up the Manti Te'o guy about how he was on top of the world and then just hit rock bottom. But you kind of experienced that. Like, you had it all, and then all of a sudden it's flipped on you, and now you're in the hole. Like,
yeah, the good news.
What helped you get through?
Well,
that?
The good news was I was pretty naive, to be honest. I don't think I even realized how bad of a situation I was in because I knew I was still making $2,000-$3,000 a day. If I went and sold, I made $2,000. So even though I had all this huge debt, but I was burned out of selling meat, I just didn't want to do it. It was really hard work to go sell meat door to door. But I'd gotten my real estate license, and about that same time, honestly, it was a gift from God. I'd done real estate for a few months, and it just kind of didn't really take off. Sold like 3 homes. And I kind of put on the back burner to do the meat business. I was also doing a TV show at the same time. I mean, I was busy, bro. And I was in school. I was trying.
Yeah, you're like, even now, it's like you just sniffed a line of coke. You're just crazy.
Yeah, dude.
How do you have so much energy? You're 41.
Well, a couple things. Number one is I love my life, honestly. I think
helps.
it's important. Like, people that don't have energy, what they really don't is have a purpose. They don't have a why. Like, I love being me. I don't know how else to say that.
Good for you. Not a lot of people say that, man.
I think God is just like amused by me. I think he's just like, this son of a bitch. Guess what he did today? And I think and so when I do things wrong, when I screw things up, I can find the humor in it. Like in the moment when things are going wrong, I can laugh about it. I'm like, wow, this is a lesson. And that comes from dude, like all the stories I tell from stages now, all the stories that people want to hear, everything that makes people, look up to me. It's the hard shit I went through. And I'll get emotional talking about it because it was so hard, but I have hindsight now where I came out on the other side. And so when I was in the middle of it, to be honest, people ask me that, like, how'd you keep going? The truth is, like, what's the other option? Like, be a loser?
That's what I tell people.
Be a friggin' loser? Like, that's the other option. I'm like, I've had a lot of coaches and mentors. I have right now 3 of the top coaches in the world are my coaches. Ed Milet, Neil Strauss, and Stefanos are all 3 coaches of mine for different areas of my life. I hire the top people. I find the best person in the world at what they do, and then I go figure out how to do it from them. That's my formula to success. I did it with real estate. I did it with marketing. I did it with building my Instagram. I do it with everything. And so I did it with dating. Like, I do whatever I want to learn. I just go learn from the best person because success leaves clues. And, if you can get access to those people, you should do it. Yeah. Anyway, and so, but what I was getting at was, so in that time that was hard, like, it never occurred to me that I wouldn't do that. And what I was getting at, there was one of my coaches, she's coached over 4,000 people. And she told me, she said, Jimmy, I think you're the only client I've ever had I've never had to motivate. Like, I don't have to motivate you. You're just going. Like, my whole thing, what I got my coaches doing now is they make me pull back. So twice a week, I go into nature for 2 hours right now. Without my phone, I just sit there. Like, literally, that's my task. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, doing more has never been a problem. If you were like, Jimmy, we're not sleeping for 5 days. Here's the task list. We got 32 things. A normal human could get 4 of them done. I'm like, bring it on. Let's go. That's my jam.
Yeah.
But you're like, go sit up at a cabin for a weekend without your phone and nobody else and can't do shit. I'm like, I've died and gone to hell.
Michael Jordan has a quote that says, I might mess it up a little bit, but it says something to the effect of, some people wish it would happen. Some people want it to happen. Other people make it happen. And I feel like you're one of the guys that, like, you make it happen type of thing.
Dude, it's so many people think that success is really far away. They think that making magical things happen is this mystical thing.
I think they feel like, oh, if I only had what he had, or if I only had this, then it'd be different. It's like, well, you don't. So you got to figure something else out.
So even to emphasize that point even more, so 2 things. Number 1 is you're so much closer. Like, all the successful people I know, they all have the same skill. They just take action. I get a chance to be around the most successful people in every area of life, dude. They all take action. That's the one skill they all have. They're always doing. They're just going for it. They're just doing things.
And they understand, like, this might go bad.
Of course.
Like this I might fail, but I'm going to give it a go.
The failure is not in it not working. The failure is in not doing it. But here's, to your point, why most people don't do it. People look at people like that are successful and they say, oh, I don't have what he has. Yes, you do. But the alternative to thinking that they have a skill you don't have is you have to do the work they did.
Yep.
And that's what people don't want to do, the work. So they just assume they don't have the skill. Everyone that I've ever met is as skilled as these people that are on top. I meet the people on top and they meet me. Hell, people meet me and it's like, this guy's not that sharp, you know? He's not doing anything that magical.
This guy can't even sit in nature for 2 hours.
Dude,
like.
literally, like, give me that task. And it's like, I mean, fishing's like my nightmare, you know? It's like, I don't get it. Can't we just go get the fish? But my point is like, we're very good at doing the thing and putting in the work. And 99% of people could accomplish what they wanted. They truly could if they're willing to do the work. And Tony Robbins, you know, he talks about this. People always come up to him and say, I want to be Tony Robbins. I want to be you, you know, and he goes, motherfucker, I built this. You can't have what I have because you're not willing to do what I did. Like, this didn't just happen. I wasn't just born. I created this person. I created this being. And that's what it is, dude. And so for people that are listening to this and they're just like, oh, I wish I had Jimmy's energy. No, you have the skills or you can acquire them, but you got to do the work. And maybe one of the gifts I was given was just the desire to do the work, I guess. Like, I don't think I did anything to earn that. So maybe that's where I have grace or like been blessed or whatever. But I don't have special skills and talents. I'm not smarter than the other. I was like pretty average in most things in my life. I simply just found the best people, copied what they did, and worked my ass off to get better at it.
I think I agree with you. I think the gap between where someone is now and that successful person they want to be is a lot closer than they think. I also think it goes the other way, though. Like, the gap of you being that homeless man on the street is actually a lot closer than you think.
100%.
That's something that I've experienced in my own life. Like, I used to look at people with, we don't need to get into it specifically, but maybe attitude or issues that I have now. And I used to look at them like we're so far away, but actually not really.
Yeah, you're one bad decision away from a really bad life.
Yeah.
No, and that's one of the things I tell people. We were just in Spain. You know, I mentioned I took 70 guys to run with the bulls, and we went into the arena. You run into the arena afterwards, and they let a bull loose, and you can kind of mess around, and that's where people really get messed up, to be honest. And one of the guys in my group he just had a lapse of judgment for 2 seconds, dude. He pulls the tail of the bull, and the bull's very sacred in Spain. They like honor the creature, even though they do bullfighting and they kill the bull that night. Like, you do not disrespect the bull. And he had about 20 people trying to fight him. I mean, he had to be police escorted out of there, and he almost got put in jail. And it was that, and he's sharp. He's one of my smartest guys, one of my best guys in my group. He really is an amazing human in every way. He had a lapse of judgment for 5 seconds, and it damn near cost him big time.
Wow.
And so you can't afford to, that's why it's all the things you do when nobody's watching. It's all those little things that you're doing that when you do get propositioned by some gorgeous girl that's not your wife or girlfriend or whatever it might be, or whatever happens, you're able to just immediately not go down that road or whatever it might be. Because this, I mean, sometimes it's out of your control, but life changes so fast.
Yeah.
And if you haven't built the mental resilience, like I don't think you probably, maybe you do, but give yourself enough credit. It was being the athlete that you were, being the coach that you were, doing the things you were doing, being the father that you were putting all these deposits into being able to get through hard things. And so when the hard thing hit, I mean, I'm guaranteeing you didn't handle it perfectly, but you're getting through it. You're doing it because of those deposits you put in before the thing ever happened. And if you don't do that work, when that thing happens, what happened to you, that would have leveled so many people, would have sent them to the streets, would have sent them to their death, would have sent them to a bottomless pit of despair that you can't get out of. And so I think it's important. That's why you do the work. That's why you do the things every single day that seem monotonous. That's the work. That's what builds you up so that when the tragedy hits, when the really hard time hits, you're good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, people ask me different questions. And I do think the person I was before the accident matters. Like that matters.
Yes.
It really does. And so like if you're listening to this, like what you're going through right now, that's just another reason why you can't run away from it. You got to be like the buffalo. Because like if you run away from the little storms, you might outrun it. But like now you have no training in how to handle adversity at all. And then when the storm finally catches you, it's like, what do we do?
Dude, my all-time favorite quote is a Tim Ferriss quote. I think he's the original author of it, but this is such a good quote because it's everything, dude. The quality of your life will be directly proportionate to the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have.
Well, me and you are in good shape then.
Dude, my life, no. Dude, the reason why my life works so well is because I always take the difficult conversation front on, right up front, in the face. Let's have that talk. Let's sit it down. And I don't have beef with people. I don't have problems with people. If I do have problems with somebody, they freaking know it. Like, we've had that conversation and they know exactly. I had one yesterday. I have 2 close friends of mine. We did a business deal and they didn't hold up their end of it. And we met at their office and they tried to, and I basically arranged this deal in a way so that the people that I was, had a fiduciary duty to were protected. And it was one of my close friends that was there. He's like, well, this really puts me in a bad spot. I said, I don't give a shit. I said that right to his face. I said, I love you as a friend and I don't give a shit. My duty's to these guys that I have a fiduciary duty for because I'm the one that raised the money. You didn't do your job. And if that puts you in a bad spot, tough shit, I can't help you. And literally was bawling and like, it was an intense talk. We walked out of there hugging each other. He's got a fire lit up under his ass and he knows where I stand and we'll be fine. And I asked him at the end of the talk, I said, what do you need from me? What can I do that will help you? And he gave me 2 things. I said, I can do both those things. Those things fit within my integrity. Those things don't put my relationship with my investors at any risk. It actually helps us. So we were able to have a very difficult conversation that 99% of people would not have owned their truth that way. But because of it, we actually got a result. We got to a place where we're both going to be much better off. And my life is now working with that human. Instead of avoiding him, instead of talking shit on him, which most people do, instead of ratting him out. No, we're now working together. We're back on the same team. He knows where I stand. He knows why I'm upset. I know why he faltered on what he was supposed to do. He shared with me some things he's going through. There's empathy to be had there, and we're moving forward. But because I had that difficult conversation, and dude, this is every day of my life. That was just yesterday. I have these conversations every day with somebody in some way. I coach 300 men right now. In the last week, I've had to deal with a dude that cheated on his wife. I've had to deal with a dude who doesn't want to be with his wife. I've had to deal with a guy that he'd been clean off drugs for a year and he just, had a mishap or whatever you call it, a relapse. And so I'm dealing, when you have 300 guys you're coaching, you're just dealing with big issues all day. And my job is to love them enough to have that tough conversation to help get them back into integrity, help them get back into a place where they feel love. They don't shame themselves. They don't beat themselves up. They have the support of the group and they know how serious what they did was.
Yeah, I do think honesty, and I do think there's a certain way, you can like you don't want to be rude all the time, but I do think honesty and that tough love you're talking, I think that's one of the highest forms of love, honestly.
Well,
like, can you just be honest
Well,
with
a
me?
good coach has the skill of loving you and you feel loved so that when they're saying it, you know that it's, if you're coming from ego or you're coming from your own insecurities, then you're going to fail that person.
Remember Tom Izzo, the Michigan State basketball coach, where he
yeah.
ripped into that player a couple years ago and people were like, is this so, I'm like, what? He's just literally just being his coach. He loves he's like, I just didn't even relate to it. I couldn't connect with these people about being frustrated with Tom Izzo.
Well,
like, he loves this kid. That's why he's hard on him.
I say this to every one of my guys I coach, though. I said, if you ever feel like I'm coming from a place of ego or not loving you, you need to stop me in the moment or call me out later or tell me in some way, and we'll fix it. But I love you enough to have the tough conversations. And the toughest conversation I had was the guy that cheated on his wife. And at first he was like, hey man, I feel like I came to you and you're like getting mad at me. He didn't understand the gravity of what he had done though, right? And by the time we left, he got it and told his wife, and they're working through it, and we make sure she's getting support. And he hit me up, just yesterday, and he's like, dude, he goes, he had this problem once before and had cleaned it up with his wife. He'd been a year without doing it. And he said, dude, it's so much better and easier this time because I'm coming from an honest place from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I gave him so much credit because he came to me. He did. He screwed up and he came to me and he told me, and we're getting it fixed. It's like, that's why he hired me though. He hired me because he knew I'd hold him to a standard he wasn't holding himself. And so you need to love people. And like you said, you can't just be a dick. Like our conversation, there was yelling. There was motherfucker, we're not going to have this conversation this way. Like it got pretty serious and intense. And there was love, there was tears, there was hugs, all the above in a half-hour period, because that's what it looks like to truly love and care about somebody. Like most people's issues from their youth, they had one of their two parents was passive, like they just didn't avoidant, right? They didn't pay attention, or they would avoid when the issues happen. They would avoid having those conversations. Like if something happens with your kid and you sit down and you talk about it, you'll probably be able to work through it. It's when you don't talk about it because you're afraid it's not going to go well. Like just have the tough conversation and love the person on the other side.
What are some of these things? Can you tell us some of these things you're telling the men's group that you're coaching? Like, what are some things you're teaching them or trying to instill in these guys?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, the whole program is a 2.5-year program. I basically took my 10 years of trying to get my life figured out. And by the way, I'm still in the middle of that, but all the things, and that's one of the things that, I do is like, I tell them when I screw things up. Like I very recently had, told them about some things that I was like, I'm going to change this about me. I came into the new year at 215 pounds. I'm 190 right now. And I got honest about it. I said, I've been coming up with all these reasons and excuses why I didn't need to be in better shape. But the bottom line is I was lying to myself, and I apologize to them for not being a better standard. But like things like that. But there's 10 sections to the course. We talk about mindset. We talk about the first 3 pillars of the entire course are vulnerable, authentic, and in integrity, because you're never going to be more lovable than when you're those 3 things. And then there's 5 pillars that have success. It includes accountability, it includes community, it includes having a mentor. And number 1 is taking a moral stand. You have to just decide that you want to be a good person. You have to decide that whatever that thing is that is out of integrity. And this is what I tell the guys. You freaking know what it is.
Well, that's why you love that. Freaking know. You love that Marcus Aurelius quote.
Yes, it's my entire clothing brand is waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. It's actually the name of my book coming out February 2. Ed Milet's doing the foreword on it, and the book's called Be One. It's like, you already know, dude. Like, we don't have to get into this. Like, if I could sit down with every single man and go, bro, you freaking know. If you want to be real and you want to talk, you know what you need to do to fix your life. And then if they're still not getting, I'll say, okay, if I was to be you for a day, what's the first thing I'd probably do to fix your life? And then they can kind of do it from a third person. Well, you'd probably want to fix this. I was like, yeah, no shit. And it's like, but you know what you're doing to screw up your life. You know where you're falling short. You know where you're not playing to your A game. And if you want to get real with yourself, and that's why my podcast, I've started doing these episodes called Real Men, Real Conversations, but it's just about being real. It's about getting real. And it comes back to that. It's like, dude, you know what you need to do. So we can sit here and talk about it all day, but ultimately you do need those things. You need a community. You need accountability. You need somebody that you can look up to, a mentor, and you need people that are going to help you take a moral stand. And then you have to change your behaviors. That's the 5th pillar.
Yeah, those are good.
Thanks. It's in the book.
Dude, I kind of want to write a book, but I have the worst grammar in American history.
Well,
I think.
you don't write your own book. You do
Just
voice.
have AI do it now?
No, I mean, I have a very good ghostwriter. I spent 2 full days with him, 12-hour days, and then I send him voice memos. So all the time, you know. So we'll have a chapter that we're working on. So we're talking about friendship right now. It's chapter 7 of my book. And I've sent him, in the last 2 days, I've probably sent him 30 voice messages that just kind of my ideas around friendship, and then he puts it to words.
Putting you on the spot right here. I was just reading through a bunch of lists the other day, the things that make, like the top 5 things that make people happy. 5's a lot. Let's just do top 3. Jimmy Rex version. What are the top 3 things in your life that make you happy?
I think. Okay, so I want to.
Yeah, take your. I know. I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, and I think about this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So I think number 1 is when the person that you want to be is aligned with the person you are. I think that's happiness. I think when you're like, it doesn't mean you're perfect,
right?
But you know you're good. Yeah. You know you're good, right? Like the person that you're like, you know what, I want to be that person. I'm doing that. And then I think fulfillment comes from having an overwhelming, because fulfillment and happiness to me is different, and fulfillment's more important than happiness. But it's kind of the same thing.
I say I think purpose is better than happiness.
Sure, and fulfillment is kind of a mix of those, I would say. But fulfillment to me is, well, use the opposite of it, right? Tony Robbins says success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And so, like, think about that for a second. Like, if you're doing things and having all this success, but you're empty inside, or you're not in integrity with yourself, then you're just going to be miserable. And so I think to be fulfilled, it comes from an overwhelming evidence that you've done things you said you're going to do. This is where I get my only political view that I really get strong on is you can give people, and there's a lot of people that do need to be gifted government grants and things like that and for help. But there's this new push to just give people everything or give them all this stuff. And you rob people of the self-confidence that can only be achieved when you do a hard thing. The gift of my life is that I didn't bankrupt when I had $130,000 debt. There was another guy in my company, my partner, had $40,000 debt on a credit card. He bankrupted. He wussed his way out of it. Spent the next 7 years freaking playing World of Warcraft trying to get his shit together. He finally did. But my point of that is, like, you rob yourself of the, like, dude, I don't regret any of my path, all the hard things I went through, because they made me me. Like, when shit hits the fan, I don't even breathe heavy because I know that I'm the asset. I've already been through these things. Let's go. Same with you. Like, good luck throwing at something that you're not going to be able to handle. Like, the bottom line is you did that. And what a tragedy it would have been if somebody robbed you from your own ability to overcome the tragedy that you went through, right? Like, that would have been the ultimate tragedy of the whole thing, because you got to then do that, and the depth of those roots springs that big of a tree where you can help so many other people. It's why your podcast took off. You just needed one platform for people to hear your freaking story and go, holy shit. Like, it happened to be mine, but it's not something I did. You just have that story. Like, that is because of what you've been through. And anybody that's gone through anything hard goes, holy shit. You know, if he can do that, then I can probably have a tough conversation with my kid I caught smoking marijuana, or that doesn't want to talk to his mom, you know?
I think you owe us one more. A third one?
A third did he for happiness?
Yeah, did you? Hold on. And I might lose credibility here. Who the hell is Tony Robbins? You keep bringing him up.
What the hell?
Who is this guy?
Oh, my hell. This guy.
I'm sorry, is it?
So I'm going to be honest for a second.
I'm not making this up.
Yeah, okay, it's fine. Look, some people follow this world, some don't. When
I've been under a rock since the accident.
Yeah. When I started, well, since you were born or what? Can
I just know who he is?
Have you ever
real
seen
quick?
Shallow Hal?
Yeah, Jack Black. I love that.
Yeah. Banana Hands, the big guy. Banana Hands, the guy that says Shallow Hal.
Oh, in the elevator.
Yeah, that's Tony Robbins.
Oh yeah, okay.
So he's the one that coaches, like, he coached like Princess Diana, Bill Clinton while he was president.
I'm bad with names. Give me a break. I don't know.
This guy charges $1 million an hour. He's the dude. Honestly, like, mine is Jesus himself.
Oh no,
I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious on this.
It's Tony Robbins.
Nobody has changed this world more than Tony Robbins.
Are you really? You're going Tony Robbins?
Yeah,
too?
Because every influencer I've ever met, Tony was their influence, including myself. So I've had the chance to hang out with him a dozen times, and he's incredible, man. Like, the guy just knows truth. He talks truth. His stuff about masculine and feminine energy, about life's purpose. His event was where I came up with my own life purpose. Like, I mean, every single thing that he talks about the human needs, the 6 human needs, just everything that dude teaches. Oh my gosh, the primary question, like that dude is figured out life.
I'll put a plug in for Marcus Aurelius, though.
No. And he speaks truth, dude. And so anyway, so Tony is my biggest influence. So I quote him daily.
Yeah, I know. I've
all
noticed.
the time. Yeah. I mean, just he's brilliant. And so I can unapologetically say that I think Tony's the all-time great. And everyone knows this. Like in the world of self-development, it's like Tony, and then maybe your next level is like the Gary V, Jay Shetty, Ed Milet, and then everybody else. But
you could just be making up names right
Tony's
now.
the GOAT. Well, that makes you feel better if you don't know who any of them are. So, no, it's just not your world. It's like this is literally like...
Dude, I grew up on Stone Cold and The Rock and basketball players and football players, and he must have just slipped through the cracks.
If not knowing who Hulk Hogan or Michael Jordan is.
Oh, wow, that's bad.
It's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. That's on
even
me.
your podcast director's laughing at you. And he
yeah,
drinks
okay,
Sprite.
we can edit that out.
He's drinking a Sprite. He doesn't give a shit, dude. He's just like...
I offered JR a Sprite, and he's like, people still drink Sprite.
No, they don't. If you're
you owe us one more. You need a third one.
I'll give you one. If you're drinking Sprite or doing things like that, like get your shit together. You're not even trying to be healthy.
I love it. We'll wrap this up real quick and then get into movies, though. But so I was going through these lists, what makes people happy, and all the lists are different, like depending on whatever. So all these lists are a little bit different. But usually the number one thing, and it was said in different ways, but the number one thing, and this is what you reminded me of, the number one thing is relationships.
Yeah, I was going to say spending time with the people you want to.
And I feel like you do that maybe, like we're not best buddies or anything, but like I feel like you do that more than anyone I like. You have all these relationships, and I think you're like, you generally care about them, like they mean something to you. And do you think that's part of the reason? I mean, you said you wake up, love being Jimmy Rex. I mean,
I'll say something that, I don't really say this much because some people might think that I'm full of myself. I don't give a shit. I honestly think that I am the best friend that's out there. Like I have more deep, real friendships than any human alive. I really do, because I care that much. It's been at the expense of other things, including having a romantic relationship that I've been a terrible lover, but like as far as friendship goes, that is a piece that I take so much pride in. I just care. It's effort in.
What are some ingredients in your opinion that make a good friend?
Number one is you can't fake it. Like you either care or you don't.
Just
you either show up or you don't. You either
showing up.
Yeah.
And people ask me all the time, like, what can you do for people really going through trauma or whatever the obstacle is? They just lost a loved one. Like, what do we do? And the sad thing is, Jimmy, like, okay, it was the anniversary of the car accident, like a couple days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
And like we released balloons. Like, are you like? But here's the thing, like. There's, and this goes back to the question. There's not a whole lot to do. There just really isn't.
What's funny is I thought, because I saw,
just show up and cry with them and hug them.
Yeah.
There's like we're releasing balloons because that's the best you can do. Like what else can you do?
Well,
and the sad thing is, there's just not a lot you can do.
When, to be honest with you, like this is what I did, because my friend Erica, she made a post about it. I was like, oh, that's today. It's July 25th, and I saw it. And I was like, should I reach out to Mason? I'm like, I think he has enough people reaching out. So I said a quick prayer and I sent you love. Like, that's all I did. I didn't have to tell you. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But and what that does though, is just by being purposeful and conscious of your people, there's an energetic shift that when I see you, it's just going to be a better relationship. Like I care. And you
we
are going
embraced in a hug.
You're going to feel that.
Yeah.
Like it's not spoken, and that's part of what being a friend is. It's like I didn't need to come drop the balloons off with you, right? Like you had your people that you were spending that day with. We're not that close of friends. But just by being conscious of you and like thinking of you and sending love to you, like, and a lot of times I've done this with every person I've ever been shitty to my entire life. Every single thing I've done wrong in a space of healing, I have sent them love. I've done the Ho'oponopono prayer to them, and it's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And I do it because energetically it changes everything between you two. So I'll say to them, I love you. And I'll spend 5 minutes on each person, and like anyone I've wronged in any way, just been rude to, just maybe used them a little bit, like, or just, whatever, had no intention of dating them, but maybe we hooked up or something, just anything I did that was less than ideal. And I'll do this and I'll send them that energetic love. And I don't have beef with anybody. I live at peace because it clears all that negative energy that we hang on to. And what usually happens is I've done it. I did it one time. And the first time I did it I was in ayahuasca. And after about every 7 or 8 people I would do this, I would throw up. You throw up a lot in ayahuasca anyway, but it was all this shame that I had tucked away in the depths of my bowels, dude, in my stomach. I could feel it releasing. It was energetic, and I never thought about any of those again. Like, it was good. I was healed, and it just changed the whole vibration of it. And so I just tell people, like, give yourself grace. Like, one thing I do really well is when I screw stuff up, I give myself grace, and then I make it right however I can. If it's something I need to call the person or talk to the person, I will immediately have the tough conversation. And then I send them love, dude, and just try to energetically do that for them. And I think that's about as much as you can do as a person, but it will change it. You will feel love towards them.
You're kind of like Steve Buscemi on Billy Madison. Like, thank God I
Cross the
called
name
that guy with the rifle at the end.
Of course. How good is that character?
Top 3 favorite... Unless is there anything else you want to say, Jimmy, before you wrap this up?
I've enjoyed the conversation, bro.
Yeah, you're the man, dude. We usually end when we have guests on. We love movies. I love movies. I'm a movie guy.
By the way, I'm really sad that there's like this small comeback, but they kind of ruined movies when everything had to be approved by China because things don't translate well. And so to make any money, the movies have to just be stuff that you don't have to translate. Like bullshit blowing up Marvel, Transformers, and all that really ruined movies. But we had this golden age in the early 90s, I think, was the golden age of movies.
I think you're right.
But it feels like it's coming back a little bit. I think, we just had that Oppenheimer movie. I
haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either, but from what I've read, they did it how they used to do the old movies. We had Top Gun last year. So hopefully those come back because that was a really cool thing. And I think a lot of the best writers and script people, I think they all work on TV shows and Netflix stuff now. So it's very watered down. But sorry, I am a big movie guy too.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Top 3, hit me with them,
dude. Simple. Number 1, the GOAT of all movies.
Hold on. Let's go backwards. Give me number 3.
Okay, number 3. I'm a big dialogue guy. That's why I hate all those movies where.
Me too. Like one of my favorite movies is No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, okay.
And when he's in that old gas station talking about the quarter, I am just like hooked. Like this is so good.
I want character development and I want good dialogue. So Good Will Hunting is my favorite movie. Third favorite.
Okay,
third favorite.
Almost blew it.
Third favorite.
Gotta go see About a Girl.
Yeah, that's the quote, dude. It's
so good.
The all-time greatest movie.
I like
because I'm a baseball guy too.
I like
it just matters to me.
Do you have apples?
Oh yeah.
Well, I got a number. How do you like them apples?
Yeah. No, the whole movie is just like. And by the way, this one didn't make my top 3, but it is number 4. A Few Good Men. I mean, every single line in that movie is so good. I can't.
You can't handle how good that movie is.
Oh, it's so good. And it's the little lines. It's the lines. You have to watch that movie a dozen times to catch all the lines. Like, there's one when he's hitting the softballs and she's trying to talk to him. And he's like, statistically speaking, if you open your eyes, your odds of catching the ball are going to go up by a factor of 10. It's just like the whole thing is like these stupid little lines that you don't even hear the first 5 times you watch the movie. But number 2 is Braveheart. There's like life before and life after you saw Braveheart. I do think it was a huge motivator for me in life. Just so much passion,
I think I cried in like maybe 3 movies my entire life before the car accident, and Braveheart, when he's yelling freedom at the end.
Oh yeah.
It got me.
If that doesn't get you in your soul, you don't have one. So.
But they cannot take our freedom.
Yeah, dude. When I was in the MTC, I memorized that whole speech in Spanish.
No way.
Bro, I couldn't even pray in Spanish yet, but I could give you William Wallace speaking about freedom,
That's too good.
And then number 1, which I think is the all-time greatest movie, obviously, my number 1 is Shawshank Redemption.
My dad would agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, dude, that movie, and it covers, one thing I love about it is, because I'm a big friendship guy. I really think that, like, this is my superpower. It's why my men's group, like, all the guys get 50 new best friends. Like, that is my superpower, is connecting men on a deep level to create friendship. I know how to do that better than anyone alive. I really believe that. And it's movies like Shawshank Redemption Good Will Hunting, same thing. His friends, like the most beautiful part of the entire movie is when he goes and his friends, goes to pick him up and he's not there. And he's like, that's what true friendship looks like. And so like these little moments, even the scene when he's talking about, I had to go see about a girl. My favorite part of that whole thing is he's like, and who are these friends that let you do this? Like, it's so perfect. Cause I just I just love the idea of friendship. But Shawshank Redemption, the whole thing is about a friendship. That's what it really is. And even like Jesus is my guy. I love Jesus. I'm a big Jesus guy.
Me too.
And what did Jesus, almost more than anything, in his hardest moment, who did Jesus call on? He called on his best friends. Like Jesus was also a homie. He was a best friend. Like that dude loved his friends. He's like, dude, let's go do some shit. Let's go have some fun. Like Jesus was a friend guy. He loved to have his friends. And that's what he's known for, is his friends. It's not for his wife or his family, which is kind of like where I'm at, right? Jesus was a friend, man, above everything else. And so like with Shawshank Redemption, that movie is just, I love the part, they've been in the prison for like a year and a half or whatever. And he's like, we're becoming pretty good friends, aren't we? But when he buys the beers, it's just this selfless act. He just is like wanting to feel normal. And it's not even about him. He's got this stupid cheese grin dick smile on his face. And that whole thing is just, it's all just, it's like friendship and life. And I think that's why those movies speak to my soul.
Yeah. Thanks again. You've impacted my life greatly as well as so many others. So thanks, Jimmy. Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it.